Check, 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 check. Wait a minute. This doesn't have everything on here, though. Doesn't. The internet can totally see you, but your stream is yellow. Sucks. Why is my stream health yellow, guy? It means I'm gonna be lagging. I don't want to be lagging. Why in the hell is my stream yellow? What up, Chosen? Chosen. Big Ray. Can you guys hear me okay? Is everything okay? Hey, old guy. Hey, old guy. YouTube says my stream health is yellow, which is like crap.
I'm the queen of the castle. Get down, you dirty rascal. Get down.
Get down. Google users in the building. What's up, mama? Are you guys okay? Everything's okay? You can hear me? YouTube's just lying to me right now. It does that from time to time. YouTube likes to lie. Dang. My camera's like super small right now. Why is my camera super small right now? Oh shit, I don't even know. So many people came in here. Who was that? Somebody. I forgot. Killer Instinct. No, Ultra Instinct. Somebody. Who was that? That was Ocean. Ocean with 2 C's. He's in the building. What up, Ocean? Should I fix this? I don't even know if I can fix it. Oh, I tried to fix the stream boss last night and I couldn't. I thought it would let me type the boss's name in there. It wouldn't let me do it. So, I fucked it up. Sorry. It is what it is. Man, I missed the Q&A. I really wanted to know what's in number 8. Yeah, you missed it, guy. We said it like 3 times. So, everyone got theme music. Not me, not you, guy. I've said it I don't know how many times, man. Tell me a song in the chat room or send me a clip. Send me a clip for the magazine and I can, you know, I can do the damn thing. Love to love you, baby. Ocean says, I just got the package. That's good. Spent a half hour in the fucking post office today mailing international packages out. So, who the hell I just sent some stuff to? Ginger Snaps. Ginger Snaps and Bob's cousin. Yeah, I had to go sit at the mailbox, damn post office. Oh my gosh. Half hour to send out 2 damn packages. Don't make no sense. But I bought some Gregory, what's his name? Gregory Isaac stamps while I was there too. So, Gregory Isaac. Yes, I like to buy black people stamps. I don't know why, I just like to do it. I see a black person on the stamp, I'm like, hey, let me get a book of those. I'm not going to use them. I just put them up for my kids. I don't know why. Maybe they'll be able to buy them an ice cream sandwich with it one day or something like that. Who knows? Who knows? Just give. Wait. Just got your email and sent. You know the back. Okay. That's what's up, Bob's. Bob's. I sent your package out today, man. Yeah. So I'm talking about you, guy. You're the reason why I spent a half hour in the post office today. I hope you're happy. You guy, let me see if I make mine. I don't want this to be like the whole length of the screen though. Oh no, not properties. I didn't mean to click that. Never mind. Go back. Click slack. I meant to go transform. Transformers! What if I stretch the screen? Oh my gosh, Becky, that's way too big. I don't think my camera should be that big. It's way too big. Way too big. Wait. Hey, buddy. Click on my camera, dude. There you go. Hey, buddy. Where's the chat room at? Maybe I can put the chat up. Where's the chat box? Chat box? Yeah, the chat box. Why you not open? Open. Do I need to fix you? What up, JB? JB? Oh, yeah, this isn't the chat box. Never mind, cancel. That's why I don't want that. I don't want that to be on. I want the, is it the Hangouts call? Yeah, but I don't want it to be. Son of a bitch. Okay, can I make my Hangouts call, aka this, a little bit smaller? Like a little bit. Sorry guys, I'm just kind of on the fly fucking with stuff right now. Sorry. Now, can I click on my Brio? My Brio. I need, oh, see, I'm moving the wrong thing. Damn it. This guy, move it right there. I have to change the background because of that weird SparkzAlot thing in the background. Let me see. Turn that off. Look, bam, and it just all turned black. Fuck yeah, buddy. Oh. Okay, so JB says, sup, SparkzAlot. Fred says, hi. Fred says, what's up? Fred, I thought you was coming over Wednesday, man. Today's Friday, bro. Where the hell you been at, man? Thank you, sir.
Talk about it.
Yeah, see, that's why you're supposed to just wrap that shit up when you go to bed at night. Wrap it up.
I did.
Okay, well, you must have slept like a crazy animal. You ain't got no clothes on, so please don't step in the camera. Go over that, man. I love you. Thanks for the coffee. You're a scholar and a gentleman. That shit is hot. Danny from Vegas. What up, man? Man, I wanted to go to that day in Vegas. Is it day in Vegas? I don't know. I saw something for something on. Damn. I saw something about something on Instagram. Some type of 3-day concert out here. It looked pretty fresh. So. Mother Nature's in the building. What's up, Mom? Mother Nature's in the building. You trying to get reviewed on my booth review? Wait, I'm so sorry. Sparks. You trying to get reviewed on my booth review page? I mean, Canna. I'm so lost. Who said that? Josh Warrior? Josh Warrior! I don't know, bro. I don't know what you meant by that, sir. I don't understand. I don't understand. So, let me go see if I can see what's cracking over here. Crack-a-lack-a-lack-a-lack-a-lack-a-lack. See, I got a. Dude, come on, bro. Why is it taking so long to do stuff? Let me see if there's some music working today over here. Song request. June. Oh, okay, wait. Timeout. So, okay. Bob's cousin. Okay, when you go to Patreon, there's 2 different ways you can donate over there. You can donate you can make a one-time donation, or you can make a pledge. If you make a pledge, that pledge will be like a monthly thing, so to speak. The one-time donation is just one time, like it'll debit that out of your account, like right then and there. But if you make a pledge, it's not going to debit your account until like the end of the month or the beginning of the next month, so to speak. Like, for some odd reason, well, on Patreon, you don't really necessarily like your pledges. You don't pledge your pledge to the end of the month. So, like, you wouldn't make your June pledge to the beginning of July, so to speak. So, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I'm still figuring it out. Well, I'm not still figuring it out because I understand how it works. But, yes, you can make a one-time donation over there, or you can make a pledge on the stream. Not on the Streamlabs, on the Patreon. So, let me see if this is on. Is this working? That was kind of loud. Sorry about that, guys. Anyways, I forgot I can play that in the background. Wait a minute, what just happened? Is it dragging in line? You don't see one time? Okay. There should be a thing over there that says one time. You can either make a one-time donation or the monthly thing. So, I don't know, I might have to go back. I might have to go back and check it out. But if I'm not mistaken, yeah, you should be able to make a one-time donation or a monthly pledge over there. You know what I mean? Mother Nature's in the building. Anyways, this paper's tripping the hell out. It's tripping me out over here. Is the music too loud? The music seems like it's too loud. And I got it on 5. I put it on 1. Is that better? I can hear myself now. I can hear myself. Google user, your package went out this morning. I sent Google users package out this morning. Who else did I send out? Bob's cousin. Ginger Snaps. Who else did I send out today? I forgot. Anyways, I need flour for review goes. Anyway, I need flour for review goes for anyone. I donate products to review for review. Wait, I have 4 plants left. I'm sick of trimming. Keep trimming. Keep trimming. Joshua says, I need flour for reviews. Goes for anyone. I'll even donate 4 products to review. Oh, Country Farmer says, cheers to all of my buds. Oh, okay. So you want to do like review videos and you're trying to review people's products? That's what you're saying, Joshua, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe that's what that means. Maybe that's what that means. Fish eyes, look up. Country Farmer, cheers. I have 4 plants. How are you? Mr.SparkzAlot, the music was good. Mother Nature says, I saw it. I mean, yeah. I just couldn't think. Like, sometimes when the music's too loud, it's hard for me to think about what I was saying. Because I'll be ready to jam just in the background, like, hey. And then stuff mess up. And, yeah. Anyways. This is a mail call. Mail call, mail call, mail call. Mail call.
Someone has sent you an email. I cannot say because I can't say names.
Okay, cool. I've been here all day. This little girl ain't did nothing. The minute I decide to go live, she wants to get up and start being active as hell. Like, hey, daddy. Hey, daddy. Hey, daddy. Anyways, I want to say thank you, first and foremost, to the big homie. Monedita de Platas. Monedita de Platas, man. He sent us some mail. He sent us some mail. So, we're going to open up this mail, see what's in it. It's a mail call. Monedita de Plata. Separating booth from fire. What the hell is booth? I'm starting to count flower huge on YouTube. Words. I'm gonna give you a little bit of advice. It's almost easier just for you to just start a playlist, bro. Make a new playlist and just put all your reviews in there on your channel, because if not, you're gonna have to build that subscriber base all the way back up. And take it from somebody that's got 5 different channels, bro. Like, it's kind of hard. This channel's got 2,500 subscribers, and if you added up my other 4 channels all together, you wouldn't get the same 2,500 subscribers. Like, people know that I have all 5 channels, and I guess I post more on here, so as long as they're subscribed here, I guess they feel like they got all the bases covered. But I do giveaways on all my channels, so you know, you might miss a giveaway because I won't announce it on this page and I'll just have it on my other page. Like, but the benefit, there is a benefit. Like, I can do 420 like all those low number subscriber giveaways I did on this channel, I can do on those other channels as well. So I don't know, but I'd almost think it'd be easier, like with your current subscription basis, to just make a playlist, bro, with all your herb reviews in there. You know what I mean? Because if not, you're just going to be doing double and triple and quadruple the work. Anyways, I got to run to the bathroom real quick. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to a new Sparky. Oh, little boy's bathroom. Little boy's room. I got this little boy bladder over here. I hope you're smiling and I'm finally getting a storm. You know what that means? Partly with the plants not having no water. Huh? I'm so lost. I got to go pee-pee. I'll be back. I didn't dry my hands all the way down. I can't touch the keyboard because my hands is wet still. That's messed up. I'm smiling. Thanks, love. I appreciate you smiling. You're awesome. I'm so lost. I'm finally getting the storm. You know what I mean? I don't know what that storm means, but okay. I'm so lost in the chat room. As long as you guys know what's going on, that's all that matters, I guess. Anyways. Oh, snaps. Let me add some points to the people in the chat room real quick. For those that are here. I hope I don't know why I always feel like I'm putting too much. Anyways, this is not gonna be a long ass video. Dang, it costs you $3.70 to send this package. You guys see how much shipping is? Shipping, first class, damn near $4. That's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. Anyways, let's see what's in this package. We are gonna do a giveaway as well because Mona Dita said he sent extra stuff in here, so I'll figure out what I got the most of, and we're gonna send you guys some lucky winner in the chat room. It's gonna be some lucky winner in the chat room. It's not gonna be Country Farmer though, because he sucks. I'm just playing. It might be Country Farmer. Who knows? Dang, how do I open this thing? Do I have to actually like? Oh shit, I forgot. There goes the thing, right there. And wait a minute. You gotta tip your hat when dude comes in here. Tip your hat up. Well, howdy there, cowboy. Zombie Bob. Oh, this is one of them bubble mailers that you guys spend money on. Like, damn, on Aditha. How much was this bubble mailer? It's just like $3, $4. It's got it. Where's the price at? I know it's the price on it. They probably covered over it with the damn tracking number and shit. This is like I think this envelope costs like $4. $7, $8. Shipping ain't easy. Shipping ain't easy. Anyway, shout out. Oh shit, is this a Mona Dita de Plata stamp? I can't believe it. I don't think I got one of those last time. A Mona Dita de Plata stamp. Yes, we have Mona Dita de Plata stamps, ladies and gentlemen. It's big. Oh no. I said Mona Dita de Plata black slap. This is a slap. Wait, what? I don't know what kind of slap this is. It says Astral. Wait. Astral flowers. Maybe that's Mona Dita's brand. I don't know, but the secret is in the sauce on the back. See? We taped it up underneath the body of the car. Sparks. That's where we put it. Zombie Bob in the building. What up, D-Line? Old Sokol. Cat. I'm lost. Old Sokol. Old something. Old Astral, like Astral plain. I don't know, maybe plain flowers? Does Astral mean plain in Espanol? I don't know. Anyways, I gotta slap y'all ain't. Finna go slap this on my shop bag right quick. It's pretty cool. It's got an A and an F. Astral, wait, time out. That F looks like something else though. Maybe it's like, who knows? We'll ask Mona Dita. He's not in here right now. I'm kind of mad. Wait, there he goes. Holy sheep shits. Mona Dita de Platas. Mona Dita de Platas. Is this your slap, sir? Or is this like somebody else's stuff? Is this your genetic stuff thing right here? Genetic company? Pop off right here. Is this the Mona Dita de Plata stamp? He says, yeah, that's mine, baby. I know that's right. I'm finna slap you on my shop bag over here, man. It's a pretty nice sticker, man. It's kind of thick. It's kind of thick, bro. Kind of thick. Anyways, you're a scholar and a gentleman, bro. Once again, I appreciate it, man. I gotta get you another package together. Mona Ditas. So, Mona Dita sent me some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, uno. No, let me stop playing. Okay, Monadita de Plata sent me some. Oh shit, that looks like that bomb right there. That bomb. That bomb. Ooh, I don't know. I don't even know, guys. Okay, so the first one says, oh, you know what? I should have known that because I think I want to say the last packs you sent me had this little logo in there and I just really didn't pay attention. Or maybe they were written on paper. I forget. Anyways, this is some Franco Stein right here. Oh, there's some beautiful beans. Roll that beautiful bean footage. That looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 pack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 pack. Yep, I just skipped numbers. We got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 pack of the Franco Stein. I don't know what's in it. OG Scotty Blanks. Franco Stein 6 pack. That's what's up. Monadita de Plata. Hey, Abbott! Thank you, Abbott. This is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Please give me a second because my curious daughter just can't leave me alone for an hour. She can't do it. Hold on. She's so silly, man. She's so freaking silly. Danny, I broke a nail. You stopped my live to tell me that you broke a nail in your sleep? I don't want to hear that. I don't care that you broke a nail. Frankenstein equals crazy glue cross with sangria cross with GDP. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of stuff. What up, Dank? Hola, gringos and frijoles. He just called us something. Yeah, something. Beans and something. That's Dank Abbott, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, Abbott. Hey, Abbott. Anyway, so yes, we got the crazy glue cross with sangria cross with GDP right here, Franco Stein. I wonder if I should write that down. I'm not going to write it down. I'm not. Anyways. Package number 2 from El Monadita de Platas is some baboon cross with Jack Herrera. Jack Herrera. Herrers. Baboon cross with Jack Another 6 pack. Another 6 pack. Boom. That baboon's that fire. And then you got the Jack Herrera old school. So you cross the old school with the new school. And you get some ooh wee. Jack Herrera. Anyways. We also got some of that GDP, baby. Stands for goddamn, it's potent. It's that goddamn, it's potent weed right here. God damn it. It's potent. Now that stands for the gargoyle dipped in peanut butter. I don't fucking know, man. GDP, guys. Granddaddy Perks. Gargoyle dipped in peanut butter. GDPs. Oh, big old. Them some big beans, man. I know y'all probably can't see them in there, but I think these are the biggest ones so far. These are the biggest beans so far. They're big as shit, guys. Big. The GD Pizzles. Great, and you, Jerry D. Now, we have 3 more. I'm going to do a little bit of mix up over here so we can... We're going to go like that. Bam! So, Monadita de Plata, how are you, my friend? Says Jerry D. Now we got over here as well. We got some of these right here. Sangria F1s. Oh my goodness. Sangria. So this is in the Frankensteins. The Frankensteins? Frankensteins. Not Frankenstein. 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 Sangria. Gorillas don't pee. GDP. What? Gorillas don't pee? What do they do then? How do they eat? How do they release their bodily fluids then? What do they? They sweat it out? I don't even know. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This that fire right here, man. This right here is the last strain that I grew out from Monadita de Plata. And this shit right here, son. The baboon crossed the sour diesel. The baboon crossed the sour diesel. The baboon crossed the sour diesel. It's flame. Straight flame. So, I think we're going to give some of these away. This is a 6-pack, so maybe we'll do a 3-pack. And I'll pick another strain out and we'll do 3 of those. And yeah, we'll get them out to you guys. So, I'm going to put this to the side. We're going to do a 3-pack giveaway of some Baboon Cross with Sour Diesel from Monadita de Platas. Let's put that to the side. Oh, I feel like I dropped one. I did. It caught onto my elbow and it dropped. So, and then last but certainly not least, we have some Baboon Cross with, I don't even know what the hell that says. Europa, Kieran, Herrera, Europa. I hope you guys can read that. Me moving probably don't help. Europa, Europa. Baboon Cross with Europa. Mother Nature says, have a great day, everyone. Much love. Have a good one, Mama. Thank you for being here. Mr. Nice One's in the building. What up, Mr. Nice One? Thanks for being here as well. So, we're going to do the Baboon Cross with Sour Diesel 3-pack, and let me see. I think one of these I got already, so as well. I think the Baboon Cross with Jack Herrera. These ovens I ain't got yet, so I'm probably gonna put those to the side. But I know I got some Baboon Cross with Jack Herrera, and I think I got some Baboon Cross with Sour Diesel. So we're gonna do a 3-pack of the Baboon Sour Diesel and a 3-pack of the Baboon Cross with Jack Herrera. Jack Herrera in the chat room. Should we do a Nightbot or should we do a Nightbot? Nightbot or a Nightbot? Should I do 2 giveaways for 2 different 3-packs, or should I just do 1 giveaway for both 3-packs? I think I'm gonna do 1 giveaway, both 3-packs, just because I don't want to be on here forever and yesterday. Right now I got stuff to do. I just got back home and I need to get some stuff situated. So I'm gonna get Nightbot on here. We're going to do a number giveaway. Anybody can enter because this is not my giveaway. It's Monadita de Plata's giveaway. So let me get Nightbot situated over here. Then we're going to do a number giveaway in the chat room. If you have not shared this video yet, please do so. Okay, so Nightbot's in here. Giveaways. Good. What? I missed 420, cuz? How you let me miss 420, man? How you let me miss 420, man? I ain't even got no. Yes, I do. I got buds in front of me. I got the buds in front of me. So it's gonna be a late 420 bone rip. But I'm smoking with y'all. Shout out to Big Ray for reminding us what time it was. He's like, I don't know what y'all doing, but I'm smoking over here, man. Happy 420, Ray. Ray. I'm smoking some cookie berries. Jumbo, no, it's true. Ram your 1902. You and your long name. What's up, man? Oh, you like this? I call this bong Luca. Luca Brasi the Lungbuster. It's an actual Luca bong. That's the name of the company, Luca. I forgot what the name of the bong is, but it's the company name Looka. I think I got this for like, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot how much it was. I know the lady at the smoke shop wanted like way too much for it. And I was like, look, if you don't sell that within the next couple weeks, I'll give you X amount for it. And she was like, okay. She knows she had it priced too damn high. So I ended up going in there and getting it. And then I found it online for like way more than I paid for it. So I was happy. I was like, cool. It's cool. Anyways, cheers again, guys. Cookie berries. Oh, wait. Woo! Zombie Bob. Their package went out this morning. Zombie Bob, I think. I want to say it went out this morning. Anyways, in the chat room, if you want to do that giveaway some other day, Mr.SparkzAlot, let me see what Mona Dita said. I can send you some more just for the giveaway if you want to do the giveaway another day. Well, I kind of told folks that when I got this, I was going to do a giveaway. So I don't like to be liar. I don't like to be liar. So, let me check and make sure. I might have like enough of the baboon sour diesel and the baboon. I don't know if you sent. Hold on. I know some of these you sent me already. Like, I just didn't want to give out the whole 6-pack because if I don't have it, then it's like, Well, let me see. I might have enough to just give these away as 6-packs. These two. Well, if I do, then I'll just do 2 separate giveaways. And bro, anytime you want to give anything away, man, or anytime you want to get something out there and you don't want to have to go through like the nonsense or the nuance, like shipping is a pain in the ass, bro, to be honest with you. So anytime, sir, you want to get some stuff out there and you don't feel like being bothered with it, man, you are more than welcome to get. You can send it to me and I'll get it out. I mean, there's a few other people like Toke Up sent me some stuff a long time ago to kind of get rid of or get out, you know. Tim S has sent me some stuff. Like, there's a lot of people that just sent here. Spread this out, you know what I mean? So I don't have no problem doing it, man. All you gotta do is just let me know. So the baboon cross with Jack Herrera, I got like a damn near a 10-pack here. So I'm gonna do the baboon cross Jack Herrera. We're gonna do that giveaway 6-pack. We're gonna do 2. If I got enough of this baboon sour diesel, then I will just do that as a 6-pack. The Baboon Tahoe OG Kush sour diesel. See, yeah, I actually do. I probably still got a 10-pack left of the baboon cross with. Oh shit, Chocolate. You sent me Chocolate last time. I gotta get that in the ground, man. Oh my gosh. Okay, so yeah, we are gonna do 2. We're gonna do 2 separate giveaways. Because Mona Dita de Plata is a scholar and a fucking gentleman. If you guys have not hit that share button yet, make sure you do so. Make sure if you are not subscribed to the big homie Mona Dita de Plata, you should get over there and check him out, man. He's a fucking awesome grower. And just the overall genuine dude, in my opinion. As far as I know. from what he shows. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's like, you know, I can only base what I see onto YouTube. I'm not Mona Dita's neighbor. We didn't go to high school together. But my assessment of him is a pretty good fucking dude. Shout out Mona Dita. Mona Dita! So yeah, it's official like a referee with a whistle. We do have enough to do two giveaways today. So, if you guys would be scholars and gentlemen, I know you don't want to share because you're like, wait, if I share, then more people are going to come in there and that decreases my chances of winning. Yeah, it kind of does. But, at the same time, whatever. What did I just smoke? Cookie berries. A bowl. I got this lot. I'm in. Dang, maybe my connection is kind of crappy today. Should I cut the music off? Every time I stream this fucking music in the background, it acts dumb, son. Maybe I should play some music from my guitar. From my guitar! Anyways, shout out to the 14 in the chat room. Sent you an email, Bob's cousin says. Right on, dude. What the hell was I finna do? I was finna give you guys and gals some points in the chat room. Because you rock. Ooh, I gotta go to the bathroom. We're gonna do another milli. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm sorry, folks. I got a little boy bladder syndrome today. So, we're gonna do a number giveaway in the chat room. I'm gonna let the first winner pick their pack, and then the second giveaway we do is gonna be for the remaining pack. So, you wanna be the first winner. I mean, you wanna be a winner either way it goes because this shit got baboon in it, man. No, I'm just playing. This shit got sour diesel. Wait, this got Jack Herrera. Time out. They from Mona Dita to Plata, man. That's all that needs to really matter right there, man. Just airplane genetics, man. You're going to be on cloud 36 up there. Just weird. 99 to the second power is the cloud that you're going to be on if you grow this shit out right here and smoke it. This right here. Oh, my gosh. The sour diesel and this shit, well, my pheno any damn way. I'm mad because I got to pop some more because I let this one. This is one of the ones that I let go and I'm mad. But I got some more beans. So hopefully, I'm going to cross my fingers that I get something similar with the rest of the beans. But I got to go to the bathroom. Country Farmer, you're fired. You are eliminated because you start putting numbers in there too damn fast. Like, okay, just too damn fast. Like. Something wrong with you, man. Anyways, let's pick a random number in here. Since I gotta go to the bathroom and I need some time, I'm gonna go 0 to 7, 10. Hopefully nobody picks the number too damn fast. Like, woo! Anyways, the giveaway started in the chat room, guys. If you are in the U.S., shipping is free. If you are outside of the U.S., you need to take care of your shipping because 2 packages to Canada today cost the show $21. $10.50 a package to get that shit through customs and across the pond to Canada. Wait, not even across the pond, across the border to Canada. So, you gotta take care of your shipping if you're outside of the U.S. states. The United States of America. If you're inside the U.S., shipping is free. But if you would like to donate for your shipping as well, you can do so. I got to run to the little boys' room, ladies and gentlemen. And I'll be right back, I guess. So, yeah. Pick on. Pick on. Let me write this number down so I can know because y'all be like, what was the number? And I'll be like, I don't fucking know because I didn't write it down. Nightbot picked that shit. I see it, though. Whoa, the first number is... Oh my gosh, depending on the right. I'm gonna tinkle a little bit on myself. Whoa! The water filled up, mama. niggas for you. That little bit of bandana is not tying up your hair. I know you trying to get your bangs right. Okay.
I did do it with the bandana.
I didn't ask you a question. I'm telling you something. Okay, so could you not respond because I didn't ask you a question? All right. And you walk in front of my camera half dressed, and I swear we're gonna have some problems. Yeah. Okay.
You walking around?
Why don't you just go put some clothes on? Okay. Because you're not gonna walk around in there like that. And can you walk through the house without bumping into stuff? It's like you are blind and you use stuff around you to make sure. I don't know. It's ridiculous. I've never seen somebody bump into something so many times in their own environment. This little girl knocks over my dirty clothes hamper. Like every time y'all see the dirty clothes hamper right there? That shit's been there since I've been here. And every time my daughter walks in that room, in this room, she's got to bump into it. Like it jumped out in front of her or something. I'm like, dude, why? Why you got to bump into my garbage can? Why? I see the number has not been picked yet. 555 is not the damn number. That's kind of high. Foxtail Farms in the building. You better say hi to me before you start picking numbers, Foxtail. I'm just playing, man. I love you. I'm serious. Dead ass serious. Just playing. Wait a minute. Was that 2 chat rooms on top of each other? That was. That's crazy. I had 2 chat rooms. 2 chat rooms on top of each other. Mr. J-Rock. I know you mad at me because I didn't fix your thing yet, bro. I was just looking at your email too with your song request. I'm going to see if I got it over it. Well, I guess I could just get it because you sent it to me. I have to do it at another moment because your brother greets from the Netherlands. Yo, brother, greetings from the Netherlands. The Netherlands? Liquid Amber, thanks for stopping by. From the Netherlands. The Netherlands? Man, I wish it wasn't so much to ship shit like across out of the States, man, because I be wanting to like do munchie pack swaps and shit, like just go grab some random munchies from our store and then send that to like kind of like a pen pal munchie swap type of thing. I know they have snack pack box subscriptions or something that you can buy and they'll send you stuff from other places, but I just want to do it with like a couple people. You know what I mean? Like somebody from the Netherlands. I want a snack pack from Africa. A snack pack from Africa. What kind of snacks do they eat in Africa? What kind of snacks do they eat in the Netherlands? You guys got a Snicker bars? Snickers? I mean, I know Snickers is like worldwide, but like some places don't sell Snickers as much as they do. Oh, we have a winner chicken dinner ends the chat room. Shit, I ain't made one bit, fam. Wait, huh? You ain't made one bit, fam? What? You ain't made one bit from what, Mr. J-Rock? So, big ballers. Oh, you ain't made a video of... I'm just playing. I'm gonna leave you alone. You're supposed to make a light video. You didn't make no damn light video. What? What's the prize of this giveaway? You wasn't here, bro. So you didn't win. It don't even matter, man. It don't even matter, J-Rock. It don't even matter. He said, I'm mad. Snack. Frinkadell? What the fuck? Hey, yo, Google. What is a Frinkadell? Frinkadell? Google's probably like, what the hell is you talking about, bro?
Sorry, I'm not sure how to help.
I'm not sure how to pronounce that shit. So I'm going to go over here in this other thing and I'm going to have Google. Congrats, Zombie Bob. Let me go over here and see if I'm going to have Google look up what a Frinkadell is. What is a freaking fricadelle? What about Bob? What about... doing this. What you doing? I just had 6 gray hairs grow out right there within the 30-second conversation. I promise. Where's the Freakadelle at? Like Freak Adele? Frickadelli. Bless you. Great movie Google users. What about Bob? What about Bob? J-Bone says 207 in the fucking building. Okay, no, I gotta Google this shit real quick. I gotta Google it. But I can't copy it from my thing over here. Bless you, baby Sparks. Google user says. Yes, the chat room says bless you. I got a Frikandel. Frankadel. Yeah, now let's Google this shit, son. Google it. Copy. Now I need a thing over here. I need a new tab. We're gonna see what a Frankadel is. Bob's cousin says, cheers, J Bones. J Bones grows in the building. Liquid Amber. Mr. J Rock. Be right back going outdoors to burn something. You might miss another giveaway, bruh. Wait, man, I had to go. Who won? These. I'm just playing. GL. Zombie Bob won. Let me write that shit down before I forget. Zombie Bob. Today's the 28th. 6/28/19. Zombie Bob. Zombie Bob. Now, what does Zombie Bob win? What does Zombie Bob, which one do you want? Do you remember? Do you remember your choices, Zombie Bob? We need the wheel. You want to do the wheel for the last one? Okay, we'll do the wheel for the second giveaway. After Zombie Bob figures out which prize he wants. Zombie Bob says, I want the one that you like, dude. Okay, so we got Zombie Bob for the baboon cross with sour diesel, courtesy of Monadita de Plata, man. Monadita de Plata. And like myself, Monadita put a 6-pack together for you, not a 5-pack. We don't do 5s right here, son. We do the 6s. I'm just playing 6-pack. So you got a 6-pack of baboon cross the sour diesel and the big homie Monadita de Plata. And I'm gonna tell you right now, them is some big ass beans. Roll that beautiful barbecue bean footage. Roll that beautiful bean. Look at that beautiful bean footage. Ooh, it's probably foggy. Oh. Y'all see the stripes? You see the strips, man? The strips? The strippity stripes? Potato. Big Chew in the building. What up, Big Chew? I'm just fucking with you, Mr. J Rock, man. You better not be getting all butthurt over there on me, dog. Mr. J Rock, you're rotten. Mr. Greens. I'm just playing. Mr. J Rock, the homie from another Nomi. Big Dutch snack. I think one of the first snacks in the Netherlands. And we day croquette and bitterbal. Bitterbal? Wait, die croquette. See, I can't even say that shit out loud. That's exotic bird seed. Oh, let's go over here. Did I copy this? Let me see. Paste right here. Wait. Paste right here. Let's go see what this snickle, whatever the hell that is. Frickin' down snack is. I gotta see this shit, guys. Let's go over here. Can I not open this in the background? Chatland, dope dead. Mail call. Oh, dope dead. Chatland. Wait, Chatland. Ooh, Snapper Dapper Dooskies. So, it's in, I don't even know what the hell that is. Frickin' Dell. Is that like a hot dog or some shit? Am I not looking at the right thing? Let's turn this off. Where's the Hangouts call to? Okay, so look. Is that what you're talking about? A Frikandel? Frikandel? Croquette and bitterbal Frikandel special. I don't even know how to say that, man. A Frikandel is a traditional Dutch snack, a sort of minced meat, a hot dog, of which the modern version was developed either in 1954 or in 58, 59. We don't remember. It's a 5-year period of days. I don't remember what in the heck. Keep it lit, chat. Big room. Hash that thumbs up for the stream. Thanks, Big Chew. Big Chew. Yeah, a Frikandel. I wonder if Google will say this out loud. Can you say it out loud? Is there a pronunciation of Freakendale? Fikendale? I don't even know how to say that. Oh, listen. I can listen? Yes, let me hear what it sounds like.
Frikandel.
Frikandel. Shit, I wasn't that far off. Let's hear it one more time.
Frikandel.
Frikandel. Well, shit, Liquid Amber. If I'm ever in the Netherlands, man, we're going to have to get together. We're going to have a
Frikandel.
A frikandel. Dude, you're getting a...
Frikandel.
You're getting a frikandel, man. Dude, you're getting a...
Frikandel.
Computer, bro. Super shout out to Liquid Amber and all the
Frikandel.
out there in the world. It is amazing. I learned a new word today. That shit is funny. It's a freaking Dell, bro. It's a freaking Dell. That is crazy. Don't pee on yourself. Don't tinkle a little bit like I almost did a second ago, because I almost tinkled just a little bit. I was trying to hold it, but it wouldn't work. So, yeah, it was crazy. Anyways, I would like to keep this short and sweet. So, we got 6 minutes left. I don't know if that's going to be long enough to do a wheel, but we're going to try to get a wheel done in 6 minutes. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, though. What am I looking for? Classroomtools.net. Classroom, come on, tools.net. Bam, nail picker. So, since Zombie Bob got the baboon cross with Sour Diesel, we are going to do a wheel for the baboon cross with Jack Herrera. If you would like to put your name on the wheel to win some baboon cross with Jack Herrera, type it in the chat room. Say, I want freaking down. That's what you got to type in the chat room if you want to get in on the wheel. You got to put, I want a freaking deal. You in the Netherlands, come to mi casa. You ain't even in mi casa. I want freaking deal. That's it, country farmer. You get it, guy. You get it. What's going on with my wheel over here? It doesn't want to fucking work. It doesn't want to do I need to refresh over here or what, dude? Refresh? Random name picker? Come on, guy. It's taking you so long. I'm sorry, my wheel is taking forever over here. I love freaking Dell. I love lamp. You love freaking Dell. You so silly. You so silly, girl. You so silly. Boom. Hey, wait. I didn't give a shout out to the new subscriber. Before we do the wheel, before I forget, because I just remembered, and if I don't do it, I'll forget. I have weeds and dabs. I have the weeds and dabs all day long, bro. Man, I'm so far from the Netherlands, bro, but if I ever use my passport and get the fuck up out of the United States for a little while, and if I'm ever in the Netherlands, Liquid Amber, I will hit your ass up. I don't know how. Maybe on YouTube. I should make you my YouTube friend. Are you my friend on YouTube, Liquid Amber? Let's see. Let me see if I can go send you a friend request. Are you on IG, Liquid Amber? Yes, Instagram. It goes down in the DM. Yeah, hit me up on Instagram if you have Instagram. SparkzAlot Instagram? No, I'm just playing. I don't even know what SparkzAlot means. Is that like speak it? SparkzAlot Dutch? I don't know how to speak Dutch. The only Dutch word I know is Nutella. I'm just playing. Nutella's not even Dutch, I don't think. Let me stop playing. Let me get over here and say, welcome to the family. Who is this? Who is this that I need to welcome to the family? Well, we need to welcome to the family, should I say. Is my alert box on? Is it working? Okay, I saw Lil John come up. I think we need to change Little John to something more current because Little John is kind of dated. Spanking the Dutch? Wait a minute. Yes. I know for 4 years now. Yep. I was trying to think where the hell that was coming from. But that long ass gap of silence in the background was because of YouTube for some odd reason. What the hell, bro? Can we play the next song? Because I don't even know what that is. I'm sorry. Yes, okay, so he said shout out to, who was that? Stan? Wait, no, not Stan. Steven, what was Stefan Salfield. I don't even know. Stefan. Might be Steven. One of the two. Hopefully. Anyways, let's get over here, back over here, back over here. Where is it at? Chatland. I'm going to... Oh, I gotta take the chat box off. I gotta turn my camera off. So, let me go back over here. I'm not gonna get this done in 6 minutes. I'm not, because I only have a minute left. I just wanted to, oh yes, I need to go up here and see who put, I want a freaking Dale. I want a freaking Dale in the chat room. I gotta go back up here and see. You know what, I'm just gonna have you guys do it again because, yeah. I said new, bro, what are you doing? Why? Oh my gosh, not new, like a whole nother wheel. I'm sorry, I need to edit this one. You ding dong. You ding dong new. So once again, in the chat room, if you want to enter, it's a giveaway for the Baboon Cross with Jack Herrera from Monedita de Platas. I need you to type in, I want freaking Dale. I want freaking Dale. Boom. Type that in the chat room if you want to enter for the Baboon Cross with Jack Herrera. Chosen says, I want a freaking Dale. Country. Country and chosen one so far. That's the nice one. Big Ray. Oh, snaps. That's not a good look, guy. Put Nig Ray in there. That's messed up, man. Bad Mr.SparkzAlot. Bruce Leafroy. Bruce, where you been, man? Pew 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 to you, man. Pew pew pew. Bruce Leafroy. Bruce Leafroy. Pew 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 to you, my friend. Okay, wait. So I got Mr. Nice One, I got Bruce Leaf, I got Chosen. Am I missing anybody? If your name is not on the list as of right now, then I guess I missed you. I got Chosen, Country Farmer, Mr. Nice One, Ocean. I put Pekin in there. I don't know why whatever. Big Ray, Bruce. No, I put Bruce. I already got you on there, Ocean. So, 6 people. We got 6 people trying out on the wheel for the Baboon Cross with Jack Herrera. Anybody else? We're going to close this wheel momentarily. You guys need to let me know. Let me know. Is Killer Corn in the building? Where's Killer Corn? Where in the hell is Killer Corn? I feel lucky this time. I want some baboon. I want a freaking Dale. Oh my gosh, Google user says I want her. And GL says I want a freaking Dale. Oh my gosh, you guys are so silly. It's freaking Dale. I want a freaking Dale. If you guys don't put it in there right, I'm not putting your name on there. So who is that? GL? Good luck. I'm gonna count down in 5, 4, 3. I'll put GL on there just for shits and giggles because we tried. I want a freaking Dale. So we got 8 people on the wheel that I'm gonna close in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. We're gonna close the wheel. Save this list, baby. Yes, I see, I said. The list is saved. We have 8 people on the wheel of the last understanding wheel of justice, of death, of cough, cough, cough. Cough, cough, cough. Everybody cough. So no one is trying to get a squad together to go fight the boss man. The boss man, the boss man, the boss man. In the chat room. Are you guys ready out there? We got 8 people on the list. Shout out to Bruce. Bruce. Shout out to Google user GL Chosen, Big Ray, Ocean, and the other 2 people that's on the list that I can't see right now because their name is behind the click to spin button. Man down, I'm hit. Zombie Bob joins the heist. Country Farmer joins the heist. Google user says, good luck, everyone. So, since I'm smoking cookie berries right now, I guess I'm gonna load up big ass bongs of cookie berries. Big bowls of cookie berries. We're gonna pass that around on the chat room. on the wheel. We're passing around the cookie berries on the wheel. Somebody's gonna pass out because it's gonna put you to sleep. I promise. It's gonna put you to sleep. Damn. How I get sent to jail? Fuck the DEA. Big Ray says, oh no, the dreaded purple. Hey, you just might get changed to another color, man. You don't ever know, man. Chosen said, escape. Okay, that shit is hilarious. Can I put that in there? No, that's the wrong one. I need to take this off here. I don't like that. Where is it at? Hurry up before, boom, right there. Can you guys see what Bruce Lee put? He says, I'm swimming away from Alcatraz on you bitches. I'm leaving. I keep pressing click to spin. It won't spoon. Okay, fuck it. I'll do it. There you go. I'm gonna click to spin. Who's gonna be the first one to pass out the wheel off the cookie berries? I don't know, guys. Who's it gonna be? Baby loves. Uh-oh. Maybe Big Ray jinxed himself. Oh, Bruce Lee passed out while he was trying to swim away from Alcatraz. Bruce Lee was trying to swim away from Alcatraz and he didn't make it. So he didn't make it. They came and got him. They had to give him CPR. He passed out. He had some cookie berries in his lungs. Bad Bruce. Thanks for the sub, Zombie Bob. I got you back. Salute. Oh yeah, man. If you guys aren't subscribed to Mondita the Platter for the millionth time, man, get your ass over there and subscribe to him, man, because he is the reason for today's season. Can I delete this? Delete. Remove. There you go. Boom. I want to remove the chat box. Yes, I did it. In the middle of a live, I sure did. So, Ocean, what you smoking on today, Ocean? Tell us what you smoking on in the chat room today, man. We're going to pass that around on the wheel. You know what? Yeah, we'll pass that around on the wheel. Ocean. Ocean, Ocean, Ocean. With 2 C's, ladies and gentlemen. Ocean with 2 C's. If Ocean doesn't tell me what they're smoking on. Zombie Bob is trying to get a team together to do a heist. And I'm trying to wait on Ocean to tell me what they're smoking on in the chat room. Ocean! Monadita is... What? Fear me? Fear me. I'm so... Rosin hash. Okay, so we're smoking rosin hash on the wheel now. Alright, rosin hash on the wheel. Who's gonna pass out? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. Fuck the FBI, man. Why they keep sending us to jail, man? Freaking down. GL. Unfortunately, you are a baby lunger. You're a baby lunger, man. Go sit next to the guy on the couch. GL, thanks for entering. But we're still on the hash rosin dabs. Yeah, hash rosin. I'm high. Ocean says. You're high, man, but you're still on the wheel. So let's spin the wheel and see who passes out next. This is the top 6. Shout out to Google, Big Ray, Ocean, Mr. Nice Guy, Country Farmer, and Chosen One. Chosen. GL is crying. It's like, no. My lungs are bigger than they really were today. I got a cold. See, that's what happened with, oh, Big Ray. Oh, is it going to be Big Ray or Chosen? Chosen said, I ain't going nowhere. Big Ray. Unfortunately, the hash rosin from Ocean Decor. The rosin hash. I don't know. It's weed, man. It knocked you out, bro. Can I get a stretcher so we can take Big Ray over to the guy next to the couch? Okay, thank you. Be careful with his head, y'all. Be careful. All right, Big Ray, get off the wheel, man. We gotta get you off the wheel, man. Uh-oh. Zombie Bob and Mr.SparkzAlot ran away from the heist. Everybody else got captured. It's messed up, man. I'll put some money on y'all books, though, I promise. We'll go get you some zooms and wham. So, Mr. Nice One, if you're still in the building, could you let us know what you're smoking on in the chat room right now so we can blaze it up? We can see who's got the baby lungs. We still got Mr. Nice One, Ocean, Google, Chosen, and Country Farmer. Ain't nobody snitch, man. Nobody snitch on you, dude. Just for saying that, I'm putting your ass in timeout, man. Timeout. Yes, time his ass out. Time him out for another second, too. 3 seconds. 4 seconds. 5 seconds. 6 seconds. We're going to time him out. Let me stop playing with Country Farmer before you leave. Mr. Nice One. Mr. Nice One. Hey, Mr. Nice One. Pink Kush. Okay, we're smoking pink Kush on the wheel now. Not purple Kush, but the pink Kush. Pink cookies in a plastic bag. Mr. Nice One pulled out a fat ass blunt of some pink Kush. Country said, no, I'm good. I'm still on the wheel. I ain't leaving yet. Light it up, Mr. Nice One, so I can make y'all dizzy. Let's see who's gonna lose. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, there goes the purple. Uh-oh, there goes the gold. Ocean Decor cannot handle. Ocean Decor can't handle the pink Kush, man. Evidently. Ocean Decor passed out on the wheel. Put Ocean Decor next to the guy next to the couch. Wait, time out. Put Ocean Decor on the couch next to the guy and the other guys. It's messed up, Ocean. Unfortunately, you have the baby lungs today. We're down to the top 4. Mr. Nice One, Chosen One, Country Farmer 1, and Google User 1. Wait, time out. I don't know who's gonna win, but since it's not on anybody, we're gonna smoke some more cookie berries because Mr. Nice One's blunt just went out on the wheel. So I'm gonna replenish everybody. You get a joint, you get a joint, you get a joint. Everybody gets joints. Everybody gets their own cookie berry joints, and one of y'all is gonna pass out on the wheel because the cookie berries is real, guys. It's fucking real. It's real. Uh-oh, Mr. Nice One. He can handle the pink Kush, but he cannot handle the cookie berries. It's a fact. He got about halfway through the joints, and he passed out on the wheel. Meanwhile, Country Farmer, Google User, and Chosen One are all finishing their joints right now. They're like, bring it on, guys. Bring it on. Country Farmer. What are you smoking on out there today, man? What are you smoking on? Country. Show country ass. Country. Country Farmer. What you smoking on? You smoking on shut. Oh, wait. Time out, Mr. Nice Man. Mr. Nice Guy put shut. Not shit, but shut with a U. Shut. Shut the front door. Country Farmer says, I'm smoking on this number 8s. Wait a minute, you ain't smoking on no number 8s, man. Where you get some number 8s from, guy? Who gave you some number 8s? Somebody killed a dough man, he's slipping. Who gave you some number 8s, Country Farmer? Huh? Huh? Tell me so I can put their ass in time. Let me put you in timeout for one more second. Because I love you so much, man. Alright, Country Farmer pulled out a fat ass bong. And it's got like a 6-gram bowl on it. Ridiculous. It can almost fit a quarter, but not quite. It's a 6-gram bowl. He loaded up some number 8s. I'm just messing with you, man. Google user says I got that number 8 in the dirt. I seen your picture, girl. I seen it. To be continued. Country Farmer pulled out the number 8s in the big ass bong, and we are passing it along on the wheel. Who is gonna pass out on the wheel next? I don't know, but it's the top 3. Country Farmer, Google user, chosen one. Good luck. Good luck. I see double. I see triple. What? Uh-oh, is it gonna be chosen one? Dang it, chosen. I was low-key. I was rooting for you, man, but I didn't want to say it because I figured I'd jinx your ass. And lo and behold, chosen one passed out from the number 8s. He was like, man, this shit is too dank, bro. I'm going to pass chosen one in the water. I'm going to give chosen one the water in the chat room. I think I'm going to try to if I can spell this shit right today. My fingers don't want to work for some odd ass reason. It don't want to work. Okay, there goes. I'm smoking D-tacos. There go your water, chosen, man. I ain't gonna put you. The couch getting kind of crowded over there, and I figured you don't want to be laying across nobody. So we just gonna give you a water and a fold-out chair, and you can watch the guys on the wheel battle it out. So we got Country Farmer and we got Google user on the freaking wheel, ladies and gentlemen. You guys know what time it is. It's time to pull out your credits. It's time to get your bets on in the chat room. So, who's gonna win? Who's gonna win? I don't know who's gonna win. We'll figure it out here in a minute. But if you think Google user is gonna win in the chat room, you can bet on Google user. If you think that Country Farmer is gonna win, then you can bet on Country Farmer. Let me mark this payout up to 50%. Maximum bet, 1 million credits. I'm not gonna use the timer. Just gonna open this up in the chat room because I figured after everybody stops bidding, we'll figure that out. So let's get over here. We'll check out how these bets come in. So if you want to bet in the chat room, I think Google user is going to win, so I'm going to bet 1 million of my credits on Google user. Google user's number is 0. So I'm going to put 0. I bet space 0 and then my million credits that I'm going to bet. So in the chat room, this is how you would bet if you want to bet on Google user. If you want to bet on Country Farmer, you would type !bet followed by a space, the number 1 followed by a space, followed by the amount that you are willing to bet on said person. So, not 0, chosen, you so crazy. Not the letter, not the number, wait, not the letter O, the number 0, Ocean. I mean, wait, who did that? Chosen one. Sounds complicated, bro. It doesn't have to be, man. It doesn't have to be. See? Everybody gets it. Country Farmer says, yeah. Look, bro. Oh, we're doing bets. Where's the betting at? Betting. So as of now, we have 3 bets on Google user, 3 bets on Country Farmer. That's 6 people in. Oh, 4 people got Country Farmer. Country Farmer, Country Farmer. Is it going to be Country Farmer? Is it going to be Google User? I don't know, but I'm getting ready to smoke a cigarette. So, does everybody have their bet in? Everybody got their bet in? I don't know if everybody's got their bet in. We're going to go over here and see. I bet 20,000 on Google User. No, okay, so J Bones, you need to write exclamation mark bet, all one word. And then Google User is the number 0, so you would type I bet the number 0 and then 20,000. Google User says it's rigged. Bruce Lee, if you lost like 8 spins ago, man. You fell off, man. You fell off, bro. You fell off, bro. It's a stick up. Pew, 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 pew. I bet all in, GL says. You can't go all in. You can only bet up to $1 million. GL. Okay. Let me see. Look at the screen. Okay, Google User bet on... He's so crazy. Google User bets on Country Farmer. Country Farmer is the number 1. Google User is the number 0. So, if you want to bet on Google User, you would type in exclamation mark, BET, followed by a space. Then the number 0 for Google User, followed by a space, and how much you want to bet. You can bet up to 1 million credits. If you want to bet on Country Farmer, his number is 1. I'm too stoned, bro. It's all good, man. It's all good. We all stoned, man. We are all stoned. Bob's cousin got it right. He said, I'm betting 50,000. I see you, man. I see you. $1 million. 1 million doll hairs. I need it right now for my Barbies. 1 million doll hairs. Okay, so Farrah says, I bet on. Farrah is betting on Country Farmer. She got 100 thou wow in there. 100 thou wow. Okay, so I think everybody should have their bids in by now. I'm gonna let GL get it. I'm gonna let GL try one more time. GL wants to bid on who? Let me see. GL. Country Farmer. So GL needs to type in I bet, followed by a space, followed by the number 1, followed by a space, followed by however much you want to bet. He says, but I'm having hella fun. Yo, Scotty says. Scotty. Are you getting impatient? Scotty's like, dude, just pick the damn winner already. Spin the wheel, bro. Okay, we're gonna close the betting. We got 5-4 in favor of Country Farmer right now. What's the rich? I don't know. Scotty says, what's up, man? Just popping in. Well, we're getting ready to pick the winner of these Baboon Cross with Jack Herrera's over here. But currently, we're betting on who we think's going to win right now. You know, I'm in Vegas. We do the racing, sports books, and the betting and all that other good stuff. So I figured increase your points. Who you think is going to win in the chat room. GL's like, dude, I'm not going to try it again. So I'm just going to end the betting right now. We got 5-4 Country Farmer. You know what? I'll leave it open while we figure out. No, I can't, because then everybody will make some last minute bids after they figure out who the winner is. So I'm going to stop this. Boom. You can no longer put your bets in the chat room. Let's go over here to see who the winner is. I need to take this off. All right. So good luck to both of you guys and gals. Good luck to you, guy and gal. Let's see who's gonna win. Let's see who's gonna win. Oh, snapper dapper dooskies. Damn you, Google user, you just lost me 1,000,000 credits. Google user. Bad Google user, you lost. You lost all of my monies. I'm just playing. You know I love you, Google user. You know I love you, Google user. So we had to take you off the wheel because you got the baby lungs. It appears that Country Farmer has won the giveaway. Congratulations. Let's get over here. Let's get over here to the betting. Let's open this back up. We're gonna cut this on, and where is the chat thing at? Right there. Boom. So Country Farmer was the winner. Everybody in the chat room who bet on Country Farmer is gonna get paid, man. I hope you guys bet big. I hope you guys bet big. Let's see who in the chat room won their monies. Google user didn't even bet on herself. That's fucked up, man. It's messed up, man. I think I should get that 500,000 because I paid y'all, really. Let me see who I paid. Big Ray and I paid Google users payout. It's messed up, man. It's fucked up, man. Anyways, congratulations, Country Farmer, on your Jack Herrera. Congratulations on your baboon cross with Jack Herrera. Jack Herrera. On your Jack Heroin, sir. Heroin. You want some heroin, son. I'm just playing. You didn't win no heroin. I don't have heroin. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Anyways, since I don't know what that means, let me see who else is in the chat room. Anyone? Country Farmer, J-Rock, Ferrex, Yale, Bob's cousin, Monadita's chosen. Once again, if you guys are not subscribed to Monadita the Platter, get over there, check out his channel. He is the one that made today's giveaways possible. Without Monadita, it wouldn't have been no giveaway today. So you guys get over there, check out Monadita the Platas. Monadita the Platas channel. Let's cut this off, cut this back on, cut this back on. Yay! I'm high right now. I'm high right now. Everybody's trying to figure out their points in the chat room. See how many points you got or don't have. You have or don't have. I think I'm probably going to smoke another bowl with you guys and then get up out of here. I wanted to make this an hour-long episode, but it turned into an hour-and-a-half long episode. So I might as well finish it off at an hour and a half. We got 4 minutes left to smoke a bowl. Is there any questions in the chat room? Anybody's got any questions besides what's in the number 8s? Country Farmer. Anybody got any questions in the chat room? I will answer anything except what's in the number 7s and what's in the number 8s. Those are 2 questions that I will not answer at the moment, so don't ask anything else. It's pretty much fair game. Outside of how are babies made, because I answered that question yesterday. No more how are babies made questions. How are babies made? Works a lot. I was about to ask that too. What's in Fornicator? Fornicator is Obama Kush crossed with cookies and cream. That is from Fancy Weed. If you look them up on the YouTube, Fancy Weed made Fornicator. And then Tim S made some more beans. So, yeah. Did you pop one of mine's yet? Great, dude. That MDP is what? I'm so lost. MDP? I need some fornicators, Bruce Lee says. I sent you beans, Mr. Sparks. You didn't send me no beans. What you said? Hagerstown. What's in Yellow Ranger? You'd have to ask. You know what? I might have that information. Hold on. That's Toy Soldier strain. Let me see. He sent me a strain list and crosses or whatever, but I don't know if I have that one because he's got so damn many. So you breed just to make new crosses? No, I don't. I'm not a breeder. It takes time to be a breeder. I've never said that I was a breeder. I make new strains just to have new strains, or when I see like 2 different strains that I have that I'm growing out at the time, if I think they will complement or add to each other, so to speak, I'll cross them together. But I've only been making crosses for like 2 years now. I think I'm on like my 10th cross. All of them. I mean, all of those, of course, are F1s. I'm just starting to work on F2s. Like, it takes time to breed, man. You just don't cross the strain over. That's why I don't really charge. Like, that's why I don't have a set specified, like, oh, I'm not going to give you a 10-pack or a 6-pack unless you give me X amount of money. Like, I don't do that because none of my crosses I would consider to be, like, a stable strain yet. Like, the first stage, the F1 stage, like the initial cross, when you cross a male and a female plant, the female will give you F1 seeds. And those aren't stable. Those have a little bit of the parents' genetics. It's got a little bit, you know, the mom and the dad. It might have some grandparents' genetics in it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to kind of go through those, and yeah, it takes time. Breeding is a process. I would be considered like a pollen checker right now to breeders, like people that's been doing this shit for a while. I would be considered a pollen checker. I wouldn't call myself that because I think that name's kind of degrading. Pollen checker, whatever. Anyways, yes. But before I make a cross, I would sit down and do as much research about each strain to see if, you know, like I said, if I can add to, like, combine both of the benefits of the mom and dad together to make a better strain in the end. So, gotta go, my friend. Have a good one, Mr.SparkzAlot. For sure, GL, man. I appreciate you coming through here. I was trying to see what was in the Soldier's damn Yellow Ranger, and I have passed up my minute 30 mark, my hour 30 mark. So, let me see what's in this, if it's even over here. I forgot who asked me that. What's in the Yellow Ranger? You sent me Gold Leaf because it's such a big producer. I'll have to look and see. Google, I don't remember. Yeah, I'd have to look and see. Maybe I put it up, or maybe I overlooked it some type of way. Yellow Ranger, Yellow Ranger, Yellow Ranger, Yellow Ranger, Yellow Ranger. Yeah, I don't see Yellow Ranger in here. Wait, there's more. He's got so much damn strains. So much damn strains. Okay, so yeah, I don't see it. I see Blue Ranger. Blue Ranger is purple voodoo crossed with blue crack. So I couldn't. Let me see if I see something. Yellow Ranger, Yellow Ranger, Yellow Ranger. Dark Knight Returns. Blue Clue. Damn it, I'm looking for yellow. Yellow, 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 yellow. I don't see it. Whoever asked what Yellow Ranger was, Probably gonna have to get in touch with Toy Soldier. Unless I can remember the next time I see him to ask. Maybe the next time you see me, I'll have the answer. If you don't get in touch with him first. But yeah. Wait, but you leave, who's gonna play with us? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I got some stuff to do. I gotta get ready to water the garden here in a little while. I need to make some waters. Make some waters for the gardens. And I gotta check on my clones. We started some clones a couple days ago. We're gonna see if any of them got any roots or whatnot. Oh shit, today's Friday and I didn't make my damn video. Yes. You know what? I may go live. If I can go live from my Elevated Edibles channel right now, I might go back live and do a quick snack review real quick. So let me get over there and see. I got to get up out of here though. But I do need to make another video for my Elevated Edibles channel. I'm supposed to drop at 420 today and I'm on here with you guys. And we missed our 420 again. God dang it. I'm going to make it 420 one more time before we get ready to leave. And I'm going to finish smoking this bowl with you guys. And then, if you are not subscribed to my Elevated Edibles channel, make sure you check it out. You can find the link on my YouTube homepage. If you go to my channel, the link to Elevated Edibles should be on the right-hand side of the page, along with the Secret Gardens channel, my Mr.SparkzAlot 420, and my Mr.SparkzAlot 710 channel. Cheers, guys. Alright. So, that is that. Check your email. Bruce, go check out my Elevated Edibles channel, man. If I can go live from over there, I'm going to go live right now, real quick. And we're going to figure out which munchie we're going to eat. Because now I got the munchies. It'd be a perfect transition. So, once again, Mona D to the Platter, man. Y'all check him out. I'm going to put his link in the video description below. So if you don't know who he is, you can go check him out. Shout out Mona D de la Platas. Congratulations again to Zombie Bob and Country Farmer on your guys' win today. Other than that, I gotta go, guys. Go check out Elevated Edibles. And don't forget, if you'd like to make, oh, damn it. I know someone who, what? You knew someone who what? If you guys ever want to help the show out, you can do so at the Streamlabs link that's in the channel or the Patreon link. Remember, you guys have 2 more days to enter the Yokan Trio giveaway. Yokan Trio giveaway will be given away on Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you go check out our Patreon page on information how to enter. Other than that, I gotta go. As always, light up, toke up, blaze up, smoke up. If you like your concentrates, get your dab on. If you like your edibles, get your snack on. It is unsuitable signing out from the 702, man. Do what it do, y'all be good. Until we meet again, peace. Like ET says, man, be good.